So the Kentucky Hemp lecture series carries on. Johnny Masters dispatches from Owl Creek, Colorado, on the Aspen, Colorado ranch by the great Hunter S. Thompson. Caviar Gold, Girl Scout cookies. These are names of hemp. These are different names for hemp. So I come across two different studies, and then I want to talk about the cannabinoid medicine, the advances in medicine with the hemp plant. But I'm going to do some Kentucky nationalism first, okay? I was going to start out with the boys are buried in Florida. I'll go ahead and say it. There's a reform, like an orphanage or something in Florida. Excuse me, I didn't realize I was so congested. So there's a reform school in Florida that has like 55 just dead bodies of boys buried in their cemetery. In the black section, they were segregated cemeteries, and in the black section there's 55 dead boys. Nobody knows why. There's lots of allegations with the Dozier School for the boy reformatory, but the Dozier School, they had the 55 boys that they had come across, and so that's like jail, that's like prison, that's like Auschwitz, it's like, I don't know what that's like. That's like a reservation, that's like a gas chamber. All of them seem like that. The jails, the mental hospitals, the orphanages, the schools. Schools act like prisons, you know. But the 55 boys in Florida, that did make me think of a Kentucky connection. Donald Harvey, Rod Farrell, and Charlie Manson are all Kentucky notable psychopaths. And they had got raped or molested when they were boys, and it was like substantial. Charlie Manson got like raped repeatedly while he was in the juvenile detention, and so that was in Kentucky, right? So I don't know, we want to save our girls in Africa, but we also need to save our boys too. How long have we grown tolerant of child soldiers? Oh, that's okay. That's in Africa. But, you know, the girls get kidnapped, and save our girls, yeah, save our girls, yes, definitely. But save our boys too. So Kentucky among the most corrupt states for spending, Jonathan Meter, WFPL. That's the 89.3, that's the National Public Radio, NPR for Louisville. June 10th, so it's coming out yesterday. This article says a new study suggests that states with high levels of public corruption, like Kentucky, tend to spend more money on capital construction projects and police protection at the expense of social services. So that's the thesis statement, right? That's the lead. So a new study suggests that states with high levels of public corruption, like Kentucky, tend to spend more money on capital construction projects, so buildings, roads, bridges, and police protection at the expense of social services. And so the rise in tyranny is almost complete. Capital construction projects are good for corporations, and police protection are going to protect those corporate interests, as well as the corporate donors and anybody else the politicians tell them to obey. And it's at the expense of social services. So Kentuckians are having to eat less, and where there's going to be a big official shortfall. So this is directly connected. Frankfort, Kentucky, AP. Kentucky officials, this was also yesterday. Kentucky officials said Tuesday the state will likely end the 2004 fiscal year with a multi-million-dollar shortfall. Kentucky does this all the time. They have a multi-million-dollar shortfall, then that justifies a reason to borrow money to get into more debt. We run a deficit. Kentucky runs a deficit, so of course we have a debt. And we've been running multi-million-dollar shortfalls for like every year for the last decade, ever since I've been paying attention to Kentucky politics. So they have a shortfall, at least they report a high shortfall, and then hopefully Obama will pass a stimulus package and get most of that covered. And then he doesn't, and then all those programs just wither and die. State officials won't know the size of the shortfall until next month, but with state revenues falling 2.1% in May, Kentucky would need an 11.7% increase in June to avoid a shortfall. State revenues, I don't even know how they're getting money. How does Kentucky make their tax money? The fiscal year ends June 30th, so they need to jack taxes up in the next 20 days. I have $3 billion ideas that will put Kentucky into the postmodern century. We're the information age. We're the millennials. And internet fundamentally changes everything. It just does. And because of our importance, because we are so great, we need to use the information. We're going to die of ignorance, and we're going to die of not communicating with others when we're the most technologically advanced society ever. Okay, so we have more capabilities to communicate and to fight the power and speak our mind than any generation before us. But all this was to go towards the whole, they cry about millions of dollars they don't have, and then they try to get some, or they'll cut really a whole bunch. Steve Beshear said a year or two ago that the cuts were going to be deep, and they're going to hurt. He just straight up told us, you know, yeah, I'm going to cut all your old services. They're going to be deep. And then it's a conservative state, so they're always complaining about, you know, taxes and people on welfare, but they're the biggest state on welfare in the whole country, right? Kentucky, my old Kentucky home. And we have, you know, the biggest pot. We get $1.50 back for every dollar we put in. So conservatives should love that, right? A business deal where you put $1 into the pot and then someone hands you $1.50. Keep that business deal alive, okay? In fact, try to get $2 back, or $3, or $4. But $4, oh yeah, billion-dollar ideas. You can legalize marijuana, you can nationalize coal, you can implement land reform, or you can have guaranteed income. So, and you could have guaranteed income with all the other three things. The guaranteed income is just a dream. I guess that's a pipe dream. But the I guess the $4 billion ideas, since I need a fourth, since that wasn't really an idea. The NBA, have a Democratic NBA team that we have UK, U of L, we want all these college players at least come to our schools. Nobody from Kentucky plays on these teams. But they come to our schools and they make the teams in the school a lot of money. And they should stay here. You know, if they can play basketball and make everybody a lot of money around here, then why not have a place for them to stay forever? Have, you know, the Harlem Globetrotters or a NBA actually, you know, adopted team. That's democratic, so you vote for the head coach and you vote for the players. So that would get people excited about voting, get into voting. Kentucky don't like we hate democracy here too, so we hate democracy. 75% of us don't vote. We don't even attempt to try to put, you know, that's the only power we have, but we're like, hell with it. We're just one vote. Who cares? Who cares? And so Kentucky doesn't even, they hate democracy, right? And they actually hate democracy so much, they're against constables. We got a movement here that's against the constables. So these two articles connect with each other. We got a shortfall that's going to be, we're not going to get the 11.7% increase. State Budget Director Jane Drelski blamed the shortfall on individual income tax collections. The state's largest source of revenue has grown by 0.5% this year. State officials expected it to grow by 2.4%. So individual income tax collections, they have not been collecting enough individual taxes. So the IRS are going to have to jump up their tax collection. Or the state, whoever, the sheriffs. The sheriffs go around getting the property taxes for the schools, right? But we want to put all the power on the sheriff. So here in Kentucky, we have police officers who are elected. So we get to choose who our police officers are. And we have the sheriff who controls the whole county. There's 120 counties, and the sheriff covers the entire county, and then the constable carries their own district within that county, but they have all the powers of the sheriff in that district. So you have the sheriff, and then you got the constables, right? But essentially, it just all the power goes to the sheriff, and he has all these deputies, and then there's sort of a power conflict between the constables and the sheriff's deputies, as well as city police and the state police and the feds, right? So we hate that. That's how much we hate. We hate our democracy so much that constables. We said, oh, what, you want to elect your own police officers? We're like, nah, we don't even. Just give all the power to the sheriff. We don't even want to try to vote for our constables. So, a new study suggests that states with high levels of public corruption like Kentucky tend to spend more money on capital construction projects and police protection and at the expense of social services. The Journal of Public Administration Review found a correlation between states with higher instances of corruption and the scale of a state's spending in certain economic sectors. It also found that between 1997 and 2008, corruption actually inflated a state's total annual expenditures. During that time, the 10 most corrupt states could have reduced their total annual expenditure by an average of $1,308 per capita, 5.2% of the mean per capita state expenditure if corruption had been at the average level of the states. The study states, moreover, at the expense of social sectors, corruption is likely to distort states' public resource allocations in favor of higher potential bribe generating spending in items directly beneficial to public officials, such as capital, construction, highways, borrowing, and total salaries and wages. The journal analyzed 25,000 public corruption convictions across the United States between 2001 and 2010. Kentucky had 281 convictions of public officials on corruption-related charges, ranking the Commonwealth third in the nation for such convictions. So we're the third most corrupt state in America. And the convictions are just the ones who got caught. If there's lots of convictions, there's probably a bunch that hasn't got caught. So 281 convictions, right, of public officials. Lots of vote buying. I've been watching all this. Okay, a lot of vote buying, a lot of using state money for personal projects, helping your buddies out. They use the ethics commission a lot, where you're not allowed, no nepotism, so you're not allowed to hire your family. You can't have like two members of, if you're on the school board, you can't have a member of your family work at the school, just things like that. And it's actually, there's a good civil service restrictions, because you don't want, a person to get in there and just have a bunch of, give a bunch of jobs to his buddies. You want him to pick the best person for the job. You want him to pick the best, what is best for the city. So you want him to make those types of decisions. But when they're corrupt, they don't have to actually listen to anybody. Like I said, 25% of the public vote. If they can dupe them, then they can dupe, do whatever it is that they want to do all across the state. This is according to a 2012 analysis by Governing Magazine. So Kentucky is third in the nation for the most corruption. Indiana University professor John Mikesell, who co-authored the study, told Governing Magazine that states like Kentucky with high conviction rates are only providing a sample climate of the state. The convictions are just the ones who got caught. Mikesell told the publication that there's a lot of convictions. There's probably a bunch that hasn't been caught. Right? That's Indiana University professor John Mikesell. The Kentucky General Assembly passed a $4.1 billion highway plan this year, which included tens of millions of dollars for the $2.6 billion Ohio River Bridges project, while funding for several social services provided by state government has seen a steady decline since 2008. So we're cutting health care and education and basic services that Kentuckians need, because we're putting all the money in highways and bridges, billions of dollars into the highway bridges. And then they're going to, on top of getting billions of dollars for these bridges through our taxes, they're going to tax us further with a toll. And William Justice Goebel was against the tolls, against the monopolies, against corporations. Wrote the Constitution against the corporations, hated specific ones. He was definitely against the coal miners or the coal operators. So I'm in favor of coal. I think Kentucky needs to nationalize coal immediately. We'll be billionaires as soon as we and we'd have free electricity. So some places in Africa I just saw has no electricity whatsoever. So we live on we're beggars sitting on a mountain of gold. Legalize marijuana, have land reform, automatically just separate all the farms between the children, just between the wife and kids. If the wife hasn't been included in the deed yet, just split it up between everybody. Everybody who is alive now gets the benefit, but until you're 18, you don't get your chunk of land until you're 18. So boom, land reform, just like Otto Van Bismarck. We're gonna have a culture conf here in Kentucky. We're gonna raise our levels, right? We're gonna raise the roof. We're gonna have a renaissance. We're gonna change. Okay, we're gonna change, and we're gonna change by learning. The study places Kentucky among the top 10 most corrupt states in the nation. So we are up there with Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. Like, that makes me sick to my Mississippi. We're on a list with Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Illinois, Alaska, Florida, Tennessee, right? Pennsylvania, the Steelers, Alabama, same Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Florida? What is this? The South is on our side, right? In corruption. South Dakota, the Indians, I guess reservations. Illinois and Alaska. Sarah Palin, right? So the new NIDA study says THC blood levels do not accurately measure intoxication. A new study from the National Institute on Drug Abuse has offered revealing information on the perceived correlation between cannabis consumption rates and THC blood concentration levels. So therefore the studies are out, right? The research is out on whether these. Researchers examined blood and plasma levels of both frequent and occasional cannabis consumers before and after smoking. Frequent and occasional smokers resided on a closed research unit and smoked 6.8% THC cannabis cigarette and ad libitum. Blood and plasma cannabinoids were quantified on admission. The results showed that cannabinoid blood and plasma concentrations were higher in frequent smokers compared with occasional smokers at most points for THC and 11-OH-THC, and at all points for THC-COOH and THC-COO-glucuronide. Results were the same regardless of participants' baseline concentration levels or how much THC was in their blood when the study began. These results show a drastic difference in the amount of time THC lingers in the blood of participants, not based on the amount of cannabis consumed, but on the frequency of their cannabis use. Information important because many states in the U.S. have implemented drug driving laws for cannabis based on an NG to ML level, including both Washington and Colorado, where recreational cannabis is now legal. So that's bohemianism. That's not bohemianism. Recreational cannabis is now legal in Colorado and Washington, but the standard measurement rendering a driver guilty of cannabis DUI is 5 NG for mLs. So nigs per mils. NG per ml. What's NG? What's NG even stand for? Sorry. But 5 NG over ml. Something milliliters, right? Findings in the study indicate that people who consume cannabis more frequently are significantly more at risk of being found to be guilty of a DUI regardless of how long ago or how much they smoked, simply because THC lingers in their blood notably longer than those who consume cannabis occasionally or rarely. Common sense and educated inference would indicate that a seasoned smoker would not, however, be rendered more intoxicated than a first-time or occasional smoker who consumed the same amount, therefore reaffirming the determination that intoxication from cannabis cannot be accurately measured by THC blood content. The study published ahead of print in the February issue of Clinical Chemistry concludes cannabis smoking history plays a major role in cannabinoid detection. Cannabinoid detection. These differences may impact clinical and impaired driving drug detection. This little website here, the Joint blog, has a lot of stuff, a lot of the medical advances on marijuana, hemp, Kentucky hemp marijuana. It's the same plant, cannabis sativa L. And the way you solve cancer, the way I understand it, is that through apoptosis, which they are, CB2 receptors are in the immune cells. So they're found in the immune cells in some other parts of the body, but mostly in the immune cells. And the immune cells has the ability to make abnormal cells kill themselves. So that's called apoptosis. Also called autophagy, but I think apoptosis is going to win out on this, because it makes it pop, kill yourself, right? Push a button, self-destruct. The CB2 receptor has something good with the Kidney International too, but it has that apoptosis is how you can get cancer cells to die. And so it's in the immune system, so it's in your bloodstream, and it's also in your there's several cannabinoids also that have been, let's see, it's in your immune system, and it's in your the blood regeneration system. So and probably in organs too. I'm going to read this kidney article, so it's going to be in your kidneys, but it's in your blood, which means it's all over your body, right? And it might be the biggest system that we have. So we might be defining the human body from here on out by marijuana terms. But THC, CBN, and CBC, or CBC, but probably CBD, right? So CBD, CBN, and THC. THC, the biggest, most potent, the one that gives you the high, but also has most of the effects. CBN, which is the denigration of THC. It's a cannabinoid that's created by THC rotting. So if you leave marijuana out into the heat and sunlight, it'll rot, and that rot is going to be CBNs. And light does the same thing to CBD, turns it into CBL. But okay, so the whole point of this is the cure for marijuana is the CBN, CBD, and THC are the most promising ones. There's a researcher that was in the movie that said 25 to 30% of all the tumors in the rats were free and clear of the cancer, and then the other ones, they had shrunk. So even in the other ones, it had gone in the right direction. And suggests that if they continued, getting the treatment, then they would be cured of their cancer. So that has been proven in rats. That's been proven in test tubes. It's been proven in rats. It's been proven in humans several times over many cases. So for there not to be an official study on this, the U.S. government's patented the curing qualities of tumors. So they're going to cash in, right? You have a war on drugs, incarcerating lots of black folks, right, in the prisons. Basically, they're dead anyways, right? There's black boys in Florida. If you're born in America, you're already born in prison. And if you're born in prison, you're born in the oppressor's sort of world. So those black orphans didn't stand a chance in Florida. So it continues. Okay, so here's the study. It's cannabinoid deficiency worsens kidney disease. A new study published in this month's issue of the journal Kidney International and published online by the U.S. National Institute of Health has found that cannabinoid deficiency worsens diabetic nephropathy, a type of kidney disease, indicating that cannabinoid therapy may provide a treatment of functionally active cannabinoid system is present within the kidney. Okay, so yes, the kidney has CB2 receptors, and the immune system has CB2 receptors. CB1 receptors are mostly in the brain and the nervous system, and other places too. The whole body has them, but predominantly there's a whole bunch of them, right? In the immune system, the CB2 takes the immune system and the hemophoba, some weird H word. This means blood regeneration. Every day we regenerate a bunch of blood, and that regeneration process, those cells, probably the immune cells, are responsible for the immune system, which is to keep out microbes and bacteria and all the diseases and viruses out of our body, and to tell abnormal cells to kill themselves when they need to do so. So after conducting the studies, researchers found that the absence of CB2 cannabinoids receptor type 2 on residual glomerular, Glomerular, so glomerular cells had a major role in worsening diabetic nephropathy, both functional and structural abnormalities, likely by enhanced CP-1 and CB1 signaling. They conclude the CB2 deletion worsens diabetic nephropathy independent of bone marrow derived cells. So that basically, okay, if you got kidney disease and you're a pothead, do not take the pot away because it won't help you. Okay, it can only help. It won't hurt you. It won't hurt you. Right? It definitely won't hurt you. The science is out whether it be guaranteed that it'll help you or not, but there's 66 to 85 cannabinoids to check out, so that's a whole slew of them. Right? That's a whole it's a mess. It's a mess of cannabinoids. And so, oh yeah, and then even though there's specific cannabinoids that I mentioned are, CBDs, CBNs, THC, which have the highest, most likely, rate of success for curing cancer. The biggest, the one I think is, I don't know, just for any reason really, even for just anxiety and appetite stimulation and happiness, right? Hungry, happy, sleepy, just for those medicinal properties, it should just be legal. But the whole plant medicine, you could say THC or CBN or CBD are the ones that's curing cancer, or it's a combination of all three. Even CBD, strong strains aren't completely free of the THC, and vice versa. So these THC and CBD combined strains are the one that's curing them, and so perhaps the isolated cannabinoid is what's doing the job, or perhaps the combination of the two. And who wants to risk somebody's life just because you want to say, oh, I don't want them hungry, happy, sleepy? That's bullshit. I mean, it's just Christianity run amok. You're running from the cure because you don't want people to be happy. You've been talking bad, you've been lying to the whole world your whole life. Marijuana, the legalization of marijuana is obvious. It's the next step. It's really the gay marriage. But what else is there for America? Once we've gone that far, like our democracy is only 90 years old, right? There's two people that's in Louis C.K.'s building that's older than American democracy. So we don't know, we don't know much about history. The 60s failed all right, you see. So we need a little revolution. A little revolution. I don't know what any of that was about. The joint blog at the very end. The new study, cannabis may treat stress-related illnesses such as depression. Cannabis may treat alcohol withdrawal, says a new study. Study published this month's issue of the British Journal of Pharmacology has found that cannabis may treat stress-related illnesses with a neuroinflammatory component, such as depression. For the study, researchers conducted various experiments with animal models, in this instance rats, and found that activating certain cannabinoid receptors was successful in reversing the inflammatory blah blah blah. Cannabis may treat alcohol withdrawal. New study published by the Journal of Neuroscience found that heavy alcohol consumption leads to a decrease in the availability of our cannabinoid receptors. So if you're an alcoholic, your endocannabinoid system is shot. Okay, so your cancer is going to just grow outright unless alcohol does something. It thins the blood, right? So it's actually easier on the heart if you're an alcoholic. There's pros and cons really to everything, but I'm pretty sure alcohol cons outweigh the negatives, right? Clearly. Making cannabinoid receptor activation a potential treatment for the negative impact of alcohol withdrawal and abstinence. For the study, 20 healthy social drinkers underwent 18 FMK and 7470 position, emission, topography, PET. I don't know. Cannabis may treat atherosclerosis. New study began being published in next month's issue of the journal Atherosclerosis. Published online early by the National Institute of Health, found that activation of body's cannabinoid receptor, something done naturally by cannabis, may provide a potential treatment option for atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, also known as vascular disease, is a fairly new study finds cannabinoids an effective treatment for multiple sclerosis. So basically it's got all the medicine, and they keep it updated with a lot of things. Neuropsychopharmacology journal publishes studies showing cannabinoids can treat PTSD. So PTSD can be treated by smoking marijuana. That'll help our troops, right? Vietnam soldiers knew that. They brought it home with them. Despite perceived risk, dabbing is safe. So if you're worried about dabbing, and that's it. So, Kentucky Hemp Lectures. There's 30 minutes, fuckers.